Hello, and welcome to another episode of Defining Your Brand podcast. Today on the podcast, I interviewed Nikita Williams with Crafted to Thrive. Nikita is a business coach that helps people, specifically people that have like chronic disease and chronic illness and are still trying to run their business, and she helps them be successful in that business. She had some amazing things to say in our interview today about mindset and things that hold us back, so I'm so excited to share our conversation with you today. So, Nikita, thank you so much for joining me today. For those that are going to be listening and watching this, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Well, thanks for having me, John.
Absolutely.
My name is Nikita Williams, and I am a business coach for creative entrepreneurs. I specifically work with women, and I help women stop feeling stuck and overwhelmed and get clear on where and what they want to do. And so I've been doing coaching now for 3 years. I started out doing this as a digital marketer because I had a lot of chronic health stuff going on. And so it just forced me and back into entrepreneurship. I hadn't always been there, but that's kind of the beginning in the nutshell.
So, explain, you said digital marketer, like what did that look like for you?
So I used to do Facebook ads, landing pages, funnels, websites, all of that jazz. And it was something that I enjoyed in the beginning. What I found myself really enjoying was the connecting and working with the women, figuring out their strategy and maybe why they weren't getting there. And so it kind of morphed over the years into being a coaching business, which I absolutely love.
Yeah. Is that something that you would have seen yourself like a long time ago doing?
People have asked me that before, and I'm like, I don't think so. I have so many friends, though, who are like, Nikita, you were born, like, this is what you should have been doing from the
Yeah.
beginning. I just had a coach, health coach, recently say to me, because she knew my grandmother, and she's like, your grandmother said that you would do something like this. And I was like,
Huh.
what? Like, I didn't know that. So I think it's definitely something that I'm glad I found.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, do you have like a niche? You said women, but isn't there something more specific as far as your business goes that you address?
Yeah. Yeah. I like to help women that are in creative businesses and women who have creative businesses who are living with a chronic illness.
Okay.
Because that's where I, have grown my business, is basically from that space. Before I was even in the world of working online, I used to do trunk shows, and I always ended up, if I did work for someone, I always ended up in a place where it's doing creative things for the business.
Yeah.
So I've always been that myself.
Yeah.
And so as a coach, I've heard, many people coach different things, but for me, the most comfortable place is to coach from where I've come from. And so for me, that's been in the creative space. I just love it. I've done photography in the past. Me and my husband had a photography business in the back in the day. And I love photographers. I have a podcast myself. And I tend to gravitate to a lot of photographers just because I just love that. But my audience really are women just in the creative space in general.
Awesome. So you mentioned that are dealing with illnesses. I'm so curious where that kind of the background of that and where that came from.
Yeah, so back in 2009,
Yeah.
it sounds so crazy saying 2009 now that we're in 2020. It just always sounds funny to me, but
Yeah.
um, I had my own health issues kind of just crept up out of nowhere and became really severe. And over the years, we were in a trial and error, just trying to figure out what was going on. And in 2012, I was diagnosed with endometriosis and fibromyalgia,
Mm,
along with other things that come with that.
yeah.
And so at the time, it was just kind of figuring out what did that mean for me, because
Mm,
for years before that, I didn't know. I just knew I was in pain. I just knew I was really tired. I just knew that, certain times of the month was just not going to be a good time for me.
Right.
So as I got older, those symptoms got worse. And most people won't tell you this, especially doctors at that time. They weren't really talking about these things very openly, about how that affects you. But there are so many women. There's 1 in 10 women in the world who are diagnosed with endometriosis, and I'm sure that number would be bigger if more women were taken seriously about with what they come to doctors sharing with their
Yeah.
pains and their things. So I like I mentioned, I've done a lot of different things in my life. And so it came to a point when I was like, I can't do it for other people. I have to do something for myself. I had worked for different companies, small companies, and then small businesses in some way. But I was like, I need to etch out something for me that gives me the flexibility to, have a business and also have a chronic illness. Because those
Yeah.
two things are kind of like, they're not separate. They're
Right.
together.
Yeah.
So
It's like, I feel like with any kind of normal job, if you want to call it that, there's no room for real life scenarios. You
no.
are expected to clock in and clock out, and you don't, you know, miss too much time, and you don't take too many breaks. And if real life kind of steps in and disrupts that, there's not a lot of room for that to exist. So yeah, I can imagine that that would be a challenge.
Yeah, you're totally, absolutely right. I always tell people like, life hurdles are real. Like we all have them. Like some of them are more chronic, like they're happening all the time, but then we also have life hurdles. So if you were working for the 9 to 5 man, you can take vacation time to deal with your life hurdles, but you
Right.
can't, deal with your life hurdles if they're happening every single day without losing your job.
Right.
And so that's a very different life. And stress is a huge trigger for most people who are living with a chronic illness. I mean, so having a boss over your shoulder or telling you that you can't do such and such, or you have to be in at a certain time, and all this other stuff that comes with having someone either micromanage you or not even. I can't even say that I've ever was micromanaged, and I'm so thankful and blessed for that, because all of
Yeah.
my bosses were women, so they kind
Mm,
of had like an
I understand.
understanding to that point. But um most of us don't have that kind of reality. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's cool that you were able to kind of make that transition to allow yourself the room to do that, because not a lot of people, either not a lot of people have that opportunity, or a lot of people maybe have that opportunity but don't know how to make it become a reality.
Yeah, I'm thankful, and I used to like shy away of telling people this a part of my story, because when you're starting an entrepreneur journey, I am married, so
Mm,
I have a little bit of a support system that I fall onto, and I'm thankful
yeah.
for that. And even if I weren't married, I think I still would have a support system that's like very supportive. My mom is still alive, my dad's still alive, my brother's alive. So, and I have tons of friends that are just really supportive of me. So,
Yeah.
like being able to take a leap like that, sometimes it's scary because you don't have that support system.
Mm,
Um, so I can totally get if some women are in that space. A lot of
yeah.
women that I do coach, they're in a space where it's just them, and they're working a 9 to 5, or they're thinking about doing a side hustle of their creative business, but they're like, I don't know if I have the physical energy or all of that to even do that. So it is a big leap, but I still believe it's completely possible. I mean, that's why my business is called Crafted to Thrive, because I think we all have the tools we need.
Yeah.
It's just about making that happen. It's about making the choice and taking the leap, because it's a leap. No
Yeah.
matter how you put it, it's a leap.
Yeah, for sure. So what, some of the people that you work with, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, industries, stories, what you can share about some of the clients that you work with in your business.
Yeah. So, like I said, I tend to work with quite a few photographers.
Yeah,
Um, I don't like to share specifics about them, because what
sure.
we do is very confidential. But I
Yeah.
can talk in generalities about like photographers or just people in creative space, they are very emotional beings. Like they're very emotional. And they also tend to be more introverted than extroverted. And then I've got the other extreme of that too.
Yeah.
But with all that being said, the biggest thing that I have found that affects creative entrepreneurs, photographers, I've worked with jewelry designers, I've worked with watercolor artists, is that they feel stuck with what they want, like where they want to go, what they want to do, who they want to serve, how they want to show up. And they view their business kind of as an external piece of who they are versus a part of who they are. And so we tend to work through a lot of those different things, just identifying what it means to connect to who you are as a person and be okay with that. And then also connecting with who you want to work with, like who you want to serve. A lot of times we look externally to people to answer that question, and it's not an external question, it's an internal one that we have to decide on. So because as creative people, and I know you know this, John, as a photographer, you're aware of everything that's happening around. You're like, oh, that would look great in this frame, on that person, or whatever the case may be. You're in like camera mode, right? Which is external, right? And so when you turn the lens around, doing like a self-portrait of yourself, it's a very different experience. It's a very different experience. Like having, like, when you work with photographers who get their branding shoots done, it's like always weird. Like it's always weird. It's because they don't do that internal work first. And that's really where the good stuff happens. That's where the good mindset shifts and things like that happen.
Yeah. I mean, personally speaking to that, I had to like force myself into, because I knew that I needed branding photos done of myself. So obviously not right now, but normally I would do that pretty regularly. And doing that, getting started in that was definitely a challenge, and something that I'm used to telling people what to do is, and I see this with a lot of people that, you know, whatever industry that they're in, they're used to telling someone else to do a certain thing, but when they have to go through it themselves, it's a whole different challenge.
Yeah, you know, that's such a good point that you just said that. I think that's what's the difference between a good coach and a bad coach. I know I'm talking about something that nobody likes to talk about, but a really good coach is someone who's doing the work on themselves as well. And for me, my own personal journey, I've had to do the work. Like, I don't believe I could even begin to do what I do now if I'm not constantly doing the work on myself, because it would be weird. Like, it just would be weird. And I think if you're a creative person, you're making something or you're doing all that, you're not necessarily doing the work on yourself. So it's kind of like you put the results outside of you, but they really reside, you know, within yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk us through a little bit, like, what are some of the things that you do with your clients? Do you do calls? Do you do one-on-one? Do you do groups? What does that look like?
So for me, I do a lot of one-on-ones. Last year I did like a beta for a group, and this year I tried to launch a group program, but then I decided, what am I doing? And my clients were telling me, what are you doing? I like the one-on-one. So I'm a one-on-one coach. Like I have tried to venture in doing the whole group thing. I don't think that's just not my style. I love people. I feel like I can be present and connect with a person one-on-one. Doing that in a very big, like in a group setting just doesn't feel good to me. In the sense of like, I don't feel like I can give as much. It has its place. Let's just say that it has its place. But right now, obviously with COVID-19, we're doing everything via Zoom. I have my clients, they are attached to me in a way on my Voxer, so they can connect with me if they have any questions or have any limiting beliefs that they're working through. And they're like, hey, today's one of those days where I'm really self-doubting myself, or I'm having an issue with procrastination, or I just can't get past whatever just happened to them in their personal life that's really
Hmm.
affecting their business as well. And so um, we do a lot of that, like just on the go coaching. And then, we have set times where we do our little chats and stuff like that.
Yeah. Today's sponsor is brought to you by Live Well, Love Well Apparel. Live Well, Love Well Apparel is a t-shirt company, but it's not just a t-shirt company. I mean, how many times have you bought a t-shirt and that you've loved, but it's actually not doing anything other than just being an extra t-shirt in your closet? How many of you have bought something to support a cause or support an organization, and you bought something, but it may be something that you never wear or never really cared about? Live Well, Love Well Apparel is changing that. So how it's doing that is that it is designing t-shirts that you actually want to wear. This material is soft, it's got tri-blend material, it's comfortable, and it's just an amazing t-shirt, and something that, like I said, you want to wear and want to pair with other things in your closet. And not only that, but it's a company that gives back. So this company right now is donating the proceeds to No Kid Hungry. No Kid Hungry is an organization that helps kids that may not have access to food for at home. So when they go to school, that they have a meal that's provided for them. Right now in this pandemic, though, kids don't have that opportunity. They're not at school where school lunches are provided. So No Kid Hungry is making sure that these kids that normally have food provided for them still have a meal. So go check out Live Well, Love Well Apparel by going to lwlwapparel.com. Would you say, like, again, talking in generalities, but like, is there something that you see that's pretty common as far as struggles go from, with clients, that those insecurities or those blocks that they have? Do you see kind of a common thread through those?
Yeah, confidence. Confidence is like a really big one. And I feel like a lot of creatives are like really looking for external things to give them confidence,
Mm,
and they're waiting for them to happen. Like they're waiting for the feeling of confidence just to magically appear or something.
right.
And that's not reality of what like how confidence comes about. I mean,
Yeah.
confidence um, comes from action. It comes
Mm,
from putting things in action. But what happens with confidence is that we don't act if other things are holding us back. So if we are afraid of what people are thinking, if we are worried that we're not good enough, if we are um, like a perfectionist, like all those different things stop the action of action, right? It stops the action that
yeah.
creates the confidence that most of us need. And so, a lot of people say, and I probably preach this all the time, but a lot of people say that business is business. And I always say, well, business is not just business, it's personal,
Mm,
because it came from you. Like it's like
yeah.
having a baby, it came from you.
Right.
So if you don't deal with the things that are going on inside of you and how they relate to your business, then you won't have a business. Business
Right.
won't be just business because it'll be gone.
Yeah.
So, to get to that confidence, a lot of times we have to work through, why aren't you feeling confident? Because of these other things that are external from actions that you haven't taken. So confidence is a huge one. I think it's huge for everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
we like to put the horse before the cart, or is that the right saying? The cart before, we like to
Cart
put the
before the
cart
horse.
before the
Yeah.
horse.
Yeah. 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 I knew what you
uh,
meant.
so we like to do that and think, confidence will just appear, but it's actually a lot of work to get to that point of actually doing the action.
Mm,
Um, we want we want to know everything. We want to know the results of everything. And the beautiful thing about confidence, it comes from not knowing. It comes
yeah.
from doing the action and then being like, oh snap, or
Right.
you did it really well, or you fell flat on your face, but you learned so much.
Right.
um Either way, learning creates an action that creates confidence. But if you
Would
do nothing, it doesn't
yeah.
work.
Would you say, like, it seems like to me, and correct me if you think this is different, but I feel like it's easy for me to wait to have confidence before I decide I can do something. But oftentimes I find that the most confidence comes from when I see myself having done something already. So like, if you're just waiting to be ready, then you'll never be ready. But if you actually just do it and say, what happens will happen, but I could feel like I could see how that would be a struggle for people if they, you know, aren't sure if they want that kind of affirmation from somebody first to give them the go ahead to do something, but really they need to find that within themselves.
Exactly, John. Like a lot of people are looking for the affirmation again externally. They're looking for someone else or something else to give them the permission to say they have this confidence.
Mm,
But a lot of times, when I work with clients, it's that they've already done some action. Like they didn't just happen to have a business. Like it didn't just fall into their
right.
lap. Like
Yeah.
they've done a lot of things that have already shown like, hey, you can do this. But
Yeah.
that's why I always say it comes to the mindset. It comes to what you believe. It comes to how, when you were 9, what you thought about when you accomplished something, like what was around you. So it's so much more than just, business is business. It's so much more going to like who you are as a person,
Yeah.
and then how you relate that to the rest of what's happening in your life. And if you can get okay and you can get comfortable with the uncomfortable, which is a lot of work, if you're ready to change something that's not working, that you thought was working but now it's not, then I've seen my clients just make massive changes just from acknowledging like, look, I need to work on this piece of me
Mm,
before I can actually move on with this piece of my business. Because if I'm not clear on this, then how can I go on with that? You know what I'm saying?
right.
So having a business is just a byproduct of what you have going on inside of you.
Yeah. And it seems like there's a fear I can see, and I've had this conversation with other people, but people are afraid if they wait to do the work, then they're going to be behind. And there's a fear of getting behind. So then they skip the work, which just inevitably puts them even further behind.
Yes.
Did you find that to be true?
Yeah, I think there's this idea that we have to be somewhere. Like what I'm saying, like we have to be in a certain place. But then again, that still goes back to you. Most likely, most of us, we all have done it. We're like comparing ourselves to someone else. We're comparing to where they are in the game. We're comparing to how they got to where they are.
Yeah.
But what we don't think about is that it took them a journey. It took them a process to get to where they are.
Yeah.
So it's like looking at some stairs and like looking at the different steps and being like, oh my gosh, I need to get to that step. And you try to jump all of those steps and you get up there. What's going to happen? You're going to fall and break your face. Like, you're just going to
Yes.
do it. It's like you're going to fall and break your face. But what if you just slowly went up those steps and just took every step one at a time? You'll get there.
Yeah.
You won't exert this energy of just like trying to do something that took so many steps, that will take steps to get there.
Yeah.
It's a fear, but it's usually that kind of fear, John, is like really based on something, a belief, like a
Mm,
belief that isn't actually true, like a belief that isn't real, that
yeah.
they've made up in their head or they've experienced in their life. And they're like, oh my goodness, because there's easy ways to bust that up. Like there's easy ways that you can just look back in their life, and I can ask my clients, be like, okay, think about this. And they're like, you know what? That is so not even true. Like they realize after they've actually done that work. And it doesn't take as long as people think.
Yeah.
On average, it takes 40 days to make a new habit.
Mm,
So imagine if one of your biggest habits is procrastination. What does procrastination do to you? It stops you from action. It stops you from feeling confident. It stops you from doing all those things. So if you can figure out why you're procrastinating
mm,
and why that's why is that rooted deep into your mind and your belief?
Yeah.
Then once you figure that out and you create a plan and you work that ladder step by step, in 40 days you have a new business, you have a new life, you have a new everything.
Yeah.
So it's not that long. It's just
Mhm.
identifying those things that you do have to do.
Yeah. I think it's easy to look at where you want to be instead of looking at the work it's going to take to get there. Because we all want to be where at the end goal immediately,
Yeah.
and so trying to put ourselves there before we do the work that will take us there,
Yeah.
I feel like is probably pretty common.
Yep. Yep. We like shortcuts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and in a day and age right now where everybody's giving tips and shortcuts and tricks and all of these things, and what you were saying made me think too. We're such in a society where we're able to watch what everyone's doing, and like that's not something that I've seen in the past. Like you could see what your friends are doing, but to be able to watch what the entire world is doing at any moment is gonna cause a lot of that discouragement and like frozen nature.
Yeah, it's true, but there's also another thing is true is that we can't possibly see all of the things. We see like maybe like 1% of all the other things. Like we only see what people allow us to see, one, and
Right.
we only see like, I hate to say it, but most of the times we only see the rainbow. Like we don't see the
Right.
flood storm. We don't see all the heartache and work and all those things that all these people have gone through. We don't see that. And
Yeah.
I think culturally we're hearing more about those stories that it took for people to get there.
Mm.
But from a psychological place, we've only always heard, for the most part, all these grandeur stories about
Yeah.
how, oh, so and so was down here, and then bam, like
Right.
that's how it feels. Like bam,
Right.
they're at the top of whatever their game is, and it's like, well, not really.
Yeah.
Time. So even though we can visually
But
see it
you only see the successes. You don't see
exactly.
all the mess that they went through.
Exactly. And the other thing about seeing everybody is that even if you take the tips and the tools and you use all of those things, but you take you out of it, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
Like it's never going to work because you're trying to be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And like most of the times, most creatives and most business owners anyway, we're grabbing at all the different people. Like we're listening to so-and-so and we're grabbing this freebie from so-and-so and we're doing that course from so-and-so and all of these things. And we're like, oh, I can just merge it all together. And it's like, yeah, but where's you in all of that? Like where is your gift? Where is your superpower, your awesome sauce? Where is that?
Yeah.
In relation to everything that you're learning. And that's the piece that makes a difference. If you look at the people that are successful, and I say successful in quotes because I think that is so different for every
Right.
single person, but for people that are considered successful, that looks different for different people, but they're not doing anything too specially different like from what everyone else is doing, but what they are doing is they are like honing in on them. You can authentically tell they are them. It's kind of like when you listen to a song on the radio. I love music, so this is why
Hey,
I'm
me too.
when
Yeah.
you listen to a song on the radio and you can know that it's either like Shakira or Brandy, like their voice because it's
Yeah.
them. Like you can't decipher, like it's them
Right.
because they brought them. They can cover a song, but hey, no, that's Jennifer Lopez or that's Montel, whoever. Like you just know it's a different. It's them,
Yeah.
and that's how businesses who are successful they just hone their amazingness, like they're hone their awesome thing, and that's what I feel like any business that gets to where they want to go has to do. They have to figure out what works for them, what makes them feel good and special, because that's the passion, right? That's the thing that you're like, oh my gosh, this is what I love to do.
Yeah.
And so whether rain or shine, this is what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. So would you, if you could give like one takeaway that's probably that you think's most important for someone that would be listening to something like this, that you could say like, of all things, make sure you hold on to this. What do you have something that comes to mind?
I think I would just tell people that you are uniquely capable of doing whatever it is that you want to do. Like, you
Mm,
are completely capable of doing it,
mm,
but you must believe it.
mm,
And in order for you to believe that you're capable of doing it, you have to do the inner work. You have to do the mind work. You have to do the mindset. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to cry. You have to be mad. You have to do all of those emotional things to get to where you want to go, because what you have is completely, you can do it.
yeah. Nice. Well, I love that. Oh, so what is business like for you looking like going forward? Do you have any plans for the future? Any?
Right now I'm in a learning season. So I just did a launch for my group course that's no longer group course, that's 101.
Because the people have spoken.
The people have spoken. Exactly. I'm really in a learning season right now. I just finished one. I just invested in a couple coaching like classes, certifications, just to hone what I love to do.
Mm,
And so I'm in that process, as well as reorganizing how I will coach.
mm,
Um, so um, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just taking every day because, I'm not in a hurry. Like, I'm not in a
yeah.
hurry. I think so many of us are in a hurry. I'm really working on myself again, like
Mm,
I said before, but and I love working with my clients. I just love them. They also pull me to wanting to be a better coach. So of course I'm spending more time investing in that. So
yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Well,
And my
where can?
podcast.
Oh yeah.
And my podcast. I like, that is my other baby. Like, my podcast is my other baby. I love it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So
What do
yeah.
you, what do you talk about on your podcast?
On my podcast, we talk about so many different things. We go from like health and building a business, the struggles. Really, the premise is that basically, no matter what you have going on, you can do it. Like, you can do it. You can get through the life hurdles. You can
Mm,
learn from the life hurdles. You get to do this thing that you love to do, but sometimes it takes work. And
mm,
it shares the stories of different women who have gone through different um, challenges in their life and in their business that still means, and they're still successful and they're still pursuing the things that they love. So it's that. And I share a little bit of my own personal journey. I share a lot more about like my personal health journey, and
yeah.
coming soon though, and I haven't told anybody this.
Uh-oh. Little
Mm-mm.
debut.
A little damn real. Coming soon though, on the podcast, I'll be doing some live coaching. So
Oh,
I'll be
cool.
having like a once a month right now, because I don't know how this will work, because this is very different for me.
Yeah.
But I'll be taking applications for people to come on and to do like a live coaching session.
That's
And
awesome.
then I will post it. And so we'll see how that goes.
That's cool. Like I can see a lot of people benefiting from that because I think a lot of people have similar struggles and we all learn from other people. So I could see that being
Yeah.
a big success. That's
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. Well, where can people find you if they're looking for you on social media or your podcast? Where can people find all of that?
Well, I usually spend most of my time on Instagram, so they
Uh,
can find me at Crafted to Thrive is my profile.
okay.
On there, you can find all the information about where to find me everywhere else on my podcast and everything. But you can find me at Crafted to Thrive on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing some of your insight. Hopefully, people will take away a lot of, I mean, I know I will, so I'm sure there will be a lot of people out there that'll take away some of your great insights. So thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me, John. This was fun.
Yeah.
I don't get to do this too often. I do the other way around a lot. So it's
Mhm.
always nice when I get to be like a guest. this way.
Well, thank you so much again for doing it. And yeah, go check out Nikita and everything she's doing. And hopefully they'll connect with you on Instagram over there and listen to your podcast as well.
Yes, I love it. It's called She's Crafted to Thrive. Obviously, it's all connected.
Yeah, it is.
But definitely check it out. And I love to chat with people. So just hit me up.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.